Guardian of the north wind, spirit who brings us winter's cold and blankets the earth with fresh, white snow. Be with us now, it was like this, your fire. Guardian of the east wind, spirit who grants us the awakening of spring and brings new life to all of its nature. Be with us now, it was like this, your fire. Guardian of the south wind, spirit who brings us summer's heat and gives all our food and drink. Be with us now, it was like this, your fire. Guardian of the west wind, spirit who gives us the chilling of autumn and brings our cycle of nature to a close. Be with us now, it was like this, your fire. Scouts of Manatoc, welcome to the Sacred Council Fire of the Manatoc Scout Reservation. During the past week, you have conducted yourselves by the Scout Oath and Law, so that your leaders have deemed you worthy to be here, around our Sacred Council Fire. The ceremonies witnessed here at Manatoc are important and are not to be taken lightly, so we should hold them sacred in our hearts in keeping with the Manatoc traditions as Scouts have for the last 100 years. It is the traditions that we remember in our minds, and we make a promise to treasure the memories we have of Camp Manatoc. Some of you come for the first time to our fire. This promise will open the path back to this great camp. Others have come a second, a third, or more times to our fire. This ceremony will keep your memories forever fresh in your heart. The promise is given in sign language and with the spoken word. You'll hold your right hand above your head with your palm facing outward and make a small circle. You'll then point to your forehead and then place your hand over your heart. The words are, with the help of the Great Spirit, I will treasure my memories of Camp Manatoc forever in my heart. On the shores of old Lake Manatoc, by her brightly shining waters, stand the wigwams of our campers. Dark behind it stands the forest. Stand the chestnut, oak, and hemlock. Stand the firs with cones upon them. Many things they learn and do here. How Marnock, the Great Spirit, cares for all his faithful children, cares for all the forest people. Learn they of the stars in heaven, of birds that fly and nest here. Learn the languages of all creatures, call them friends whenever we meet them. O Great Spirit, then in heaven, send us flame to light our campfire, that for this we may be thankful. O Great Spirit, this we ask thee, send us fire, and we shall praise thee. There are many ways to tell a story, through words, through thoughts, through music. Each one of you has told a story this week, my friends, through your actions. And that is why you are here, around our Sacred Council Fire. Listen now as our tribal Sachem tells the story of a young brave who sought the spirit of Marnock.
In a forest, dark and gloomy, stalked an Indian, passing lonely. Not a sound he made or glance from the ground. As one entranced, passed he midst the trunks of trees, and high above no friendly breeze stirred the dark branches of those trees. Silence through the forest bed, silence midst the trees overhead, brooded as that Indian sped, pressing forward on a trail which ever seemed about to fail, for here was no guiding blaze to meet the Indian's anxious gaze. So with eyes pressed to the ground, the bare signs the Indian found, to mark a trail that once was bold, perhaps, but now is ages old. In this forest, dark and dreary, stalked this Indian, passing weary. The dark and shadowing trees on high stood out all-knowing of the sky. Not even the sun's all-seeing rays could penetrate that leafy maze. But lo, the sun no light gave. The forest bed was like a cave. All these things saw that stalking brave. On he pressed, 'twas dark at noon, and deeper darkness gathered soon, and the foxfires burned about, and flying things a hideous rout, the flying squirrels and moths and bats, whose eyes shone like the eyes of cats, whirled and circled in the wood. Each animal his night call gave. All these things heard the wandering brave. And he walked right steadily on, through the forest till the dawn, till the foxfires burned their last, and the flying things had passed. Then, in the dawn's first feeble gleam, the Indians saw a sparkling stream. Far ahead, the waters flash, as down a rocky glen they splash, turning white about the rocks, plunging round the silent rock. Ah, alas, a torrent cool, soon at last a deep green pool. The Indian raised his hands toward heaven in thanks that this gift had been given. But as he hasted quickly on, watching the floating mists of dawn, he suddenly saw that his trail was gone. He started, quivered, looked about him, frenzied, searched the ground around him. The trail he had followed all through the night, could he have lost it in dawn's first light? He threw himself upon the ground, examined all the earth around, but no sign the Indian found. High he raised a shriek to heaven, and bowed his head in lamentation. And he lingered with a bowed head, and hopeless eyes on the forest bed. Yet suddenly he espied a stone, with moss and grasses overgrown. Instantly he stooped and gazed, stripped off the moss, raised himself, and turned his eyes up to the leaves that hid the skies. A moment, motionless he stands, with shining eyes and upraised hands. The stone, which he had just discovered, had proven, when it was fresh uncovered, to be an old Indian sign, for it was marked with many a line, carvings fine and sharp and deep. These caused the Indian's heart to leap. "Bewail," they read, "bewail, end of trail. Beware," they said, "dare, dare, and yet beware. Only the bold can behold the cave. Only the brave can find the cave, wherein the spirit of Marnock lives. Bewail, bewail, end of trail." So the Indian's heart was gladdened, just as it had now been saddened, for he had not lost the way in the midst of early day. In the half-sped darkness of dawn, firmly, surely he pressed on. Ended now the trail and gone. Straight out stood the Indian brave. His frame was tense, his face was grave. Suddenly, in dawning glow, like an arrow from a bow, the Indian leapt and began to run. His trek to the cavern, well begun. The woods had now a wilder look, and soon the Indian reached the brook, whose green and churned water flowed, as over the hideous rocks they flowed, and so the Indian's way was slowed. As he turned and headed up the streams, in whose pool he saw strange things gleam. And the stream wound into a rocky gorge, a damp and shadowed rock-strewn gorge, a chasm that lacked all sound and light, a chasm perpetually wrapped in night, where even the chill air seemed dead, like the mists around some foul river's bed, where amidst the rocks about his stream, eyes glowed from out the shadowed gloom, eyes that mocked him as he sped, and filled his heart with secret dread. There he saw giant serpents blink, as they slept in the gloom on that very brink of awful precipice of rock. And the brave would pause, with a sudden shriek. Just at the edge of the chasm's fall, one more step in the darkness would have ended him all. With a shudder, he would turn aside, his Indian instinct his only guide, up that terrible mountainside, up a many a rocky slide, where even a slip meant death and many a start, and sudden terror would turn his heart, as out of the darkness, hideous forms, like the shadows of bats in ghastly swarms, clouded around him, brushed his face. Such forms lived in this ghastly place, and the terror of that place slackened at last the Indian's pace. He did not leap from crag to crag, but in his fear began to drag himself along the mossy walls. Steeper and narrower grew the pass, in darkness and gloom and awe. "Alas!" the Indian cried. "Alas!" he cried. Then suddenly, just at his side, first he felt a cold, cold breath, like the very presence of death. Then in the dark, dark gorge he saw a sight that filled him with all awe. A monster had touched him with its claw, snorting on the ledge above him. Its dangling arm had tried to shove him over the brink. He hasted on, ever upward, upward drawn by the promise of that cave, where he might find the spirit of Marnock, highest cave of all the caves. Glad the Indian left the rockland. Glad at last he found the cloudland. It was dark and very misty, and the mists were cool and wispy. and the Indian could not see the land he walked on. It might be of any hue, he could not see. The clouds, they trapped him like a shroud, and never a moment they allowed him to see the things about. Things that better were shut out from human sight. The merciful clouds that floated like varicolored shrouds shut out all sight above, below, sights that no man may ever know. Thus no man shall have to face the ghastly terrors of that place. Thus no man shall have to bear the sights that lie all hidden there, the phantasms all hidden there. So, little knowing all the dangers, all the hidden ghastly dangers, on and on the Indian sped. Suddenly, he passed the cloudland, past the hidden, misty cloudland, and at last he was on high, and saw at last the blue, blue sky. Stood at last upon the rock of a lofty Manatoc, saw the cloudland with its glow, shutting out the earth below. He stood upon a lofty dome, where not a creature made its home. He stretched his brazen arms on high, and gazed into the blue, blue sky. Yet wondered that he found there naught of the cavern which he sought. But suddenly, against the rock of a lofty Manatoc, he spied a rocky hole, a crevice. Was this thing his goal? He hastened to it with a bound. A hidden passageway he found, hidden neath a shelf of rock, on that curious Manatoc. Down the rocky passageway he sloped, down the brave his way he groped, into the darkness from the light, out of the sunshine into the night, with many a wandering turn, whose twists he could not rightly learn, down deep into the mountain's heart, by passageways carved with magic art. At last the Indian came in sight of a faint and flickering glow of light, and finally he made a turn, and saw the light more brightly burn, for he had come into a cave, a deep and dim and vast round cave, rocky and cold and bare, all save from the center streamed a quiet glow. While he watched, the glow grew brighter, and the cavern walls grew lighter, with a flickering pale light, with a cold and spiritual light, and the Indian shrank in fright, for there before him stood a tall, cold spirit, strangely still. The Indian beheld in awe, motionless the while he saw the spirit raise his head. "What seek ye, brave?" the spirit said. Aye, its voice was thunderous loud, speaking as it was from out a cloud. "What seek you, brave?" it said. "I seek," he said, "a secret." "You have climbed in vain," the restless spirit said. "Spirits do not tell these things to those who seek them in their lairs." But the Indian went on. "I have braved the awful woodlands. I had traveled through the rocklands. I had passed up through the cloudlands. Can you now deny me?" Then the spirit, writhed in fury, tossed and turned in silent fury, and at last, in words of thunder, "Bold brave, you shall be rewarded. Go and tell unto your people. Go and tell unto my people that the spirit sends the secret to its people. They shall tell its secret meaning. They shall find its curious meaning. Then tell them to do as I bid them. Let them seek the northern wildlands and the southern desert hotlands. Seek the mountains of the east and the mountains of the west. Gather there the cared leaves of the trees, and commingle them together with the water of the oceans, of both the oceans, that are washing at their shorelines. Mingle them in faith and reverence. Mingle them all mixed together. Leaves from out the cold, wild northlands. Leaves from out the desert southlands. Leaves from over the western mountains. Leaves brought from the Appalachians. Mingle these and pour upon them water from the great Pacific, water from the storm-tossed Atlantic, and with the quill of the porcupine, bind the sacred spell of mine. Yeah, with the quill of the porcupine, bind the sacred spell of mine. Stir it with the beaver's long tooth, with the sharp tooth of the beaver. Then, wherever man shall mix it in the name of Marnock. Bind this Indian spell of mine with the quill of the porcupine. I will move my magic spells. I will weave my magic spells. And whoever there be who smells of this potion while the mine, mixed with the quill of the porcupine, into his heart I will place a certain gift of Indian grace, a curious gift of Indian grace, a gift of curious Indian grace. I will place the love of woodland, love of streams and love of meadow, deep and green and leafy woodland, love of skies and stars and sunrise, love of planets in their courses, shining softly in the deep skies, love of sunset and their mysteries, of the moon's ascent and waning, of the quiet change of season, as when winter turns into springtime, summer burns into glowing autumn, love of all these natural mysteries, love of gently rolling hilltops, and the valleys filled with white mist, of all animals who dwell there, silent, cautious forest dwellers, all the creatures of the forests, all things living, man's companion, all the sights of field and forest, all the smells and sights of forest, all the lights and shades of woodland, north and south and east and west, mingled in this potion blessed, with the waters of the western ocean, with the waters of the eastern ocean, stirred with the sharp tooth of the beaver. In this buckskin, leather, and moccasin, these shall make a spell of mine, when mixed with the quills of the porcupine. Place them in a moccasin, in a leathern moccasin, in a buckskin moccasin. Stand upon a rising highland, on a Manatoc uprising. Drink deep of this precious smell, of this sacred Indian spell. Drink deep of this curious smell, of this faithful Indian spell, of this Indian spell of mine, mingled all with the quills of the porcupine. And the lore in woods, and springs in woods, and trees in woods, and all things whatsoever be in woods. These shall draw you, ever draw you. These things you can never spurn. For these things your soul shall burn. For these things your heart shall yearn. And in the end, friend, you will learn that to these things you must return. These words spoke the Spirit. These were the promising words he said. In his grave, in the cave, in a high rock of a Manatoc, above the clouds, above the rocks, above the woods.
Guardian of the sacred cauldron, guide of the second-year campers, lead your braves to that cauldron, and there disclose its mysteries to them. Go!
Second-year campers, rise. Follow me in a single file line, in complete and total silence.
Guide of the third-year campers, spirit of Daniel Boone, lead your braves to the spreading oak, and there disclose its mysteries to them. Go!
Third-year campers, rise. Follow me in a single file line, in complete and total silence.
Guardian of the sacred teepee, guide of the fourth-year campers, lead your braves to the teepee, and there disclose its mysteries to them. Go!
Fourth-year campers, rise. Follow me in a single file line, in complete and total silence.
Guardian and guide of the fifth-year campers, conduct your braves on the trail to citizenship. Go!
Fifth-year campers, rise. Follow me in a single file line, in complete and total silence.
With the spell from the Manatoc, your spirits now he shall unlock. With the balsam from the Northlands, from Canada beyond the Lakelands. With the Labradorian tea from the rising Appalachians, from the wooded Appalachians. With the slender eucalyptus from the hot and sunny Southland. With the sweetly scented lemon from beyond the Rocky Mountains, where the sun shines on the messes. Mix we now the actual water of the distant, broad Pacific. Mix we now the actual water of the great, storm-tossed Atlantic. Mix them in a moccasin, in a leathern, buckskin moccasin. Stir them with the beaver's tooth, with the sharp tooth of the beaver. Mix them with the curious quills of the porcupine who dwells in the mountain uplands. And thus we bind old Monarch's spell, and the scouts of Manatoc may smell of the weird potion of Monarch's spell. Tonight, you received a patch in the shape of a pot, symbolic of one you might find at the end of a rainbow. Inside this pot are branded the symbols of the Manatoc Good Camper. For having earned this, I congratulate you heartily. But let me warn you, my friends, tonight is not an end. It is only the beginning on your Manatoc trail of courage. Keep these things forever locked within your heart, and always cherish and keep hidden within the depths of your soul the last words that the spirit dead spoke to the young brave. These things you can never spurn. For these things your heart shall yearn. For these things your soul shall burn. And in the end, friend, you will learn that to these things you must return.
First year campers, rise. Follow me in a single file line in complete and total silence.